Good evening, everybody. So we're from Team ScanTrust. I'm Ricardo. This is Shubhendu and Jelle, and we'll be talking about traceability today. So we all love a nice espresso, fresh coffee, especially in the morning when you get here and you're sleepy. You're looking forward to your nice coffee. However, we also know that there are some challenges around coffee. For instance, one of them being a pretty serious one, coffee can be sourced in a very unsustainable way with lots of pesticides that contaminate the soil and make it unusable for future production. And that spoils a bit the nice espresso taste when you drink it. And the other challenge of that being that it can also be sourced in a very unfair way, because the people doing all the hard work for our nice coffee here actually don't really get compensated in a fair way. So what we have seen in the past is an emergence of a lot of producers like Coffee Circle, the coffee that we are drinking today, that are claiming to source the coffee from more sustainable sources that are fair, compensate the farmers, come from biological sources that don't contaminate the soil. However, we as consumers are now left with a package and with tons of different labels that we are not really sure about. Can we trust it? Is it real? Because at the end of the day, it's just a logo on a piece of paper, and you have no way to verify that. It would be much cooler if you as a consumer can take the package and maybe scan the QR code and get access to the digital history and the digital twin of this coffee package. And this is possible with today's technology. So ScanTrust has developed a secure copy-proof QR code. So if you take a picture and you reprint that QR code, it doesn't work anymore. This means you have a unique identifier for a product. So if you take that unique identifier and then you put it inside a distributed ledger, a blockchain, what you get is a copy-proof digital twin where you can start adding historical information on that product. And that's exactly what we did today. So we took the coffee that you have been drinking today, we add a ScanTrust QR code to it, we give it a digital memory and digital history of where it came from, and we store that in IPDB, and this gives you a more trusted version of the coffee that you're drinking today. So with this technology stack, what you can effectively do is you can start tracking the history, because each party that scans this QR code can add new information. So the coffee farm scans it, they can add information. The certification authorities, they scan it, they can add the certificate of biological. The shipping company scans it and they can add the shipping information, etc. So we've been working hard, and we have a nice little demo that we want to share with you that shows how this authentication actually works. So let's move over to that. So the demo has three components. The first one is a smartphone with the ScanTrust scanning app on it. The second one is the coffee that you've been drinking today with a ScanTrust secure QR code in the back. And the third one, that's Shubhendu's piece of art, is the BigChainDB Explorer. So this is an app that is continuously listening to new transactions that are happening on IPDB right now. So the first thing we do now is we scan the QR code. So it's visible here. So the scanning process takes a little bit of time because it's a verification process that is happening in the background. Almost there. Okay, here we go. So now the QR code is authenticated, and we see that this coffee package is actually real, and it has not been tampered with. And now what we can do is we can access the provenance history of this product by going on more info. And what we now also see is that here in IPDB there was a transaction. So when we scanned the product and accessed the information, there was a new transaction that was created, which was this scan that we actually did. And this is pretty important because this is the element that can be used by the companies that are supplying the coffee, so they can scan it. This triggers a transaction, so that you as a consumer can actually verify that your product is coming from wherever it's coming from Ethiopia, because you see in the history that there was a scan in Ethiopia, and then there was a scan at the border, there was a scan in your country, etc. So if we go now back to the product, so we see the full provenance information, the tracking data, so we see that the product is coming from the Kilenzo, Risa, and Sidamo region in Ethiopia. There's information on the history of the product. So we see here that what farmer it is coming from. We see the shipping date. We see the certification authority that certified it. We see a certification date. So you can add all the provenance information. And what is important in that context is that that provenance information is stored in IPDB. So we see, apart from the scanning transaction, there were two previous transactions. The first one being the certification of the farm that is creating this coffee. So if we go into this PicChainDB asset, we see the certification information. So we see what cooperative it is coming from, the coordinates of that cooperative, the certifying authority that I just showed before, the year code 001, and the certification date. And then there is another asset in IPDB that has been generated, which is the actual shipment of the coffee. This was the rest of the information that you saw in the app. So you see the shipping reference, the coffee farmer from where the coffee is coming, the date, the shipping date, the arrival date, timestamps, etc. So this is an example of how you can use IPDB and the ScanTrust QR code technology to give this package of coffee that you've been drinking from today an immutable digital history that is verifiable by a consumer. That's it.